Hello and Kate Millefalcha to the latest episode of the Late Late Show with me, Irish Tommy. We got a bit to discuss, despite the fact there's no upcoming games, not for a while actually. Our next one's on Boxing Day, which is a long way away. But we are going to talk about the Leicester game last week, and we're going to talk about West Ham in general, and in particular, we're going to talk about the elephant in the room, which is the situation with David Moyes and the will he stay or will he go question. And I have a special guest with me this evening to discuss this, and you all know him as Nick.
Hello.
Claret and Booze. How are you, my friend?
I'm all right, Tommy. You?
Good now. Thank you. So before we kind of crack on with the show, why don't you introduce yourself to those who might not be familiar with you and where they can find you?
I'm Nick. I'm from a YouTube channel called Claret and Booze, and I'm currently running very fucking scared from a huge spider that has just dropped from the ceiling in my loft room, and I don't know where it's gone. So if you see me, honestly, it's massive, this thing. It's huge. And it's just, that's why I was a bit late, Tommy. I was having a bit of a panic. Sorry. But yes, you can find us on... I'm not the bravest. I wouldn't be any good for the jungle if anyone's been watching I'm a Celebrity. I wouldn't be any good for that. Fucking hell. Ooh.
No, you bit finicky about your food as well.
No, food I'm all right with. Yeah, look at me. I'm all right. It's
you could eat a bull's balls. Could you eat a bull's bollocks or something if they wanted to?
If I was hungry enough, yeah, no problem. What's that? Willy con carne.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? It's all comes down to hunger in the end. You know, if you're desperate, you know, you can do anything. But would I be overstating the point to say that actually, in fact, there is a little bit of a desperate situation at West Ham at the moment, particularly with the managerial situation? Because I'll be honest, I'm a little bit panicked, Nick. The things that I would like to see happening are not happening. Essentially,
No.
I think Moyes should be our former manager by now, and I think we should, at the very least, be in advanced talks with at least one suitable candidate. Now, we don't know, obviously, exactly what's going on behind the scenes, but I mean, if that's not happening, I mean, that to me is a massive worry, Nick. I think if we dawdle now, I think we are going to regret it massively down the line.
I refuse to accept that. I know what the official line is. I know the club have come out. They said they're going to back the manager. They've said he's got the 3 games. You know, when you look at the 3 games that we've just lost, we've got 3 incredibly unwinnable games coming up. Arsenal away, Brentford, who, you know, we're not very good against at home, and Leeds away, whose tails are up. Why would you gamble this fortuitous? I've said this already on another video, but why would you gamble this situation that we've got at the moment, where you can literally offer another manager 6 weeks to come in, lay his foundations, you know, get his philosophy? There's only 5 players gone to the World Cup. They can really work with this squad. They can determine what they need in the January transfer window. It is, at the moment, I think we're in an attractive situation. What I worry about is if we leave it until after we lose 9 more points and you've let this situation go, it's going to be more harder for them to find a manager at that point. And then probably what they're going to end up doing, Tommy, is going out and finding another problem fixer, which is what David Moyes is anyway. It's what he came in as. So what we're going to do then, bring Sean Dyche in. Sean Dyche saves us. And then we're going to be eternally grateful to Sean Dyche and say, oh, no, we can't move on from him. And then wait 2 years and then we'll be having this same conversation again.
Yeah,
I want someone to come in. I want them to show some ambition. If they've shown ambition in the transfer window, I want them to continue this project, get a manager in. There's maybe a bit of a visionary that's got an idea about how he's going to, you know, get this team working and get these players working and work towards that. I mean, you know, like I said, they've done one part of the job, but we do need the manager, don't we, Tommy? We do.
Yeah, well, that's it exactly. And a manager with the right philosophy who will get the best out of the players that we've got, because we've got some real talent in that squad. And we've also got some depth of talent, which is a huge bonus in the Premier League. There are not that many teams really that you can look at their bench and say, you know what, they've got quality there too. You know, a lot of teams operate where they try to get as good a starting 11 as possible, but the bench will be quite thin. So, you know, if they've got some injuries, it affects them terribly badly. I think we're in a very decent position in that respect with the squad depth and the depth of talent that we've got. And like you, I think now is the time to do it, because I think any manager coming in now would feel that he's got essentially a kind of mini pre-season with the players.
Yeah.
To get them to understand his philosophy, to get them set up tactically and formations that he likes on the training pitch. They got loads of time to get bedded in to what the new manager expects, what he wants from them, how he wants them to play. And it's a godsend, actually, really, when you think about it. I mean, it's an incredible opportunity.
It's an amazing opportunity, and for them to pass that up, and to be honest, it would be unforgivable, because if say, for instance, like I say, what they're saying is true, and like I say, it is the official line. The official line is he's got 3 more games, apparently. What even is that? Because if you're giving someone 3 more games, that means you've already accepted they're not good enough to do the fucking job. But you're gonna give him what, 3 games to it's a stay of execution, because say he wins against Leeds, then what? You're going to give him another 3 games? Are you going to keep up this merry dance? What? I really, and that is why it doesn't make sense, and that's why I don't believe it. And if you look into it a little bit deeper, I'm not being funny. I think I saw a show earlier on. 17 of the 20 Premier League clubs, they're all off, jetting off, doing their warm weather training now, team building. You know, making their plans for the restart and everything else. West Ham are one of the teams that are not. For a start, I know we're going to get into it after. You've got Moyes, who's the one manager who should be locked in to Rush Green until he's fixed his fucking problem that he's got. He's off to Qatar. And we're going to talk about that in a bit. But he's off to Qatar. You know, I can't accept that at all. You know, I really can't. I think the players have been given a couple of weeks break. Fine, I can swallow that, but. Yeah, I don't know, and I can't believe for the life of me that there isn't more to it. You know, how do we know? For instance, you know, I've heard of it is a wild rumor, Tommy, but I've heard a rumor that this decision for this break is not David Moyes'. It's simply the fact where maybe it's kind of enforced. Look, two weeks away. Maybe Moyes has gone to Qatar, because surely in this situation, if you was the board in our situation, and David Moyes came and said to you, "I'm going to Qatar for 6 weeks. It's going to be an analyst." What would you say to him in this situation?
I'd be saying you're absolutely fucking not. You're absolutely going nowhere, and the players are not taking a nice little holiday either. You know,
I know.
Like that was the thing. I actually first heard about this on your show. I was watching it. And you had said that he's off to Qatar, and I thought, can that be right? I mean, that's an astonishing decision from all concerned. And like you, I doubt very much if he could do that without the consent of the board. I mean,
no,
they're his employers. They're his employers. They're going to be paying him to fuck off to Qatar, swanning around at the World Cup.
Yeah,
when we're sitting just above the drop zone, don't look like we can beat anyone. And this is, if you're going to keep him, I mean, surely, if it's me, if I'm the chairman and I've decided, right, I'm going to give you more time, I'm thinking, you know, this is a good opportunity for you now, David, to try and sort out whatever needs sorting out. Going to give you this period to straighten things out, try and kickstart the season. And he's like, no, I'm actually not going to be around. Going to be off in Qatar, just working at the World Cup. Absolutely no fucking way.
No fucking way. And but that is what makes me believe, because look, fair enough, we know GSB, you know, might be a pushover, but you got Kretinsky now. We've got a 12-person board. There is no way that this has. I mean, it might have been pre-agreed or whatever, but the fact of the matter is, his contract is with West Ham. There are other clubs where you could accept them having a few weeks off. I've said it in the video. Even the likes of Leicester, who are down there, you could say, yeah, go on, you can go and have a few weeks off. That's fine. Do you know why? Because they're on the up. We're on the slide. We're going down. We're in decline. The rot needs to be stopped. And one of the main issues, Tommy, is the fact that we've got a load of good players, but we are not yet a team. So this 6-week break should be used as a period of bonding for that team, to sort of build them up. If indeed the aim is to get David Moyes to succeed. But like I say, I can't allow myself to believe that the board are that negligent. I think the message that they're relaying to the people, which they've got to, that they're sticking by him, is basically they'll stick with David Moyes if they can't find someone else. And I think they're going to look for someone else, Tommy, personally. That is what I truly believe. Because for them not to do that would be fucking mind-boggling if they didn't.
Yeah.
There is no excuse for it.
It would become understandable if Moyes didn't have a job to come back to.
It would, yeah. Then it would, yeah.
If the feeling in the boardroom is, look, we're in advanced talks with a couple of people, we're going to get someone in, Moyes is going to be relieved of his duties, then, yeah, absolutely. You'd say, right, okay, off you go. Head off to Qatar. That's fine, David, no problem. But in your mind thinking, you ain't going to have a job to come back to. You'll be replaced long before you get back. So it's forgivable in that sense if that is what's happening, and I hope that's what's happening. But with this board, you just don't quite know what the thinking is. I mean, like you say, if this was just, GSB that we were talking about, nothing like this would be kind of unbelievable, really, would it?
No.
But I think the fact that I think the two things for me that make this kind of more bizarre is the fact that we've now got Daniel Kretinsky, who's the second largest shareholder at the club now.
Yeah.
And presumably will become owner sooner rather than later.
At some point, yeah.
I don't imagine that kind of thing would fly with him. And also when you factor in the 180 odd million that we spent in the summer on players, and given our predicament right now, I highly doubt a businessman as shrewd as Daniel Kretinsky would allow a manager of any of his companies to go off on some fucking 6-week sabbatical.
Absolutely,
when things were not going well at the company and needed turning around. I just can't wrap my head around that kind of decision.
Irrespective of what your situation is, Tommy, even if you're Pep Guardiola and you're trying to get to the top of the table, you wouldn't accept Pep Guardiola jetting off for 6 weeks. You'd be after all that money you've just spent on Haaland, you'd be wanting him to be on that training ground, working with them, devising a plan to sort of catch Arsenal. And the same with Arsenal, Arteta sort of keeping away from Man City. It just seems bizarre that he can just shut down for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Unless
certainly not for the duration. I mean, if it was, if it's let's say we're flying it, right? We're winning games, we're in great form. We're up there in the table in 6th or whatever it is, and having a great time. Then you could say, all right, look, have a couple of weeks. We'll give the players a little break. But it can only be a mini break because you can't have them coming back out of condition, and unfit. No. So you can't give them a long break. Any player, it's not good for them. So you could say, okay, let's all have a couple of weeks. Things are going really well. Have a couple of weeks. Go out there for a couple of weeks if you want, David. Players, you can go and spend time with your families. Relax. Couple of weeks. Then we're back. Get back into training. Get ready for that Boxing Day clash. That's fine to me if we're going really well and there aren't a lot of issues that need addressing.
No.
But in these circumstances, unless he's being replaced, I can't wrap my head around it. And just to go back for a minute, Nick, a little bit to managerial appointments, I completely agree that the longer we leave, look, I think the writing's on the wall for David Moyes. I think it's when, not if.
It has been for a while. If we're being honest, it has been for a while.
Yeah, and so these delays do absolutely nothing for the club. Nothing. No. I don't want to reiterate everything you said, but I agree completely. I think we put ourselves in a ridiculous situation, particularly as we've got the transfer window reopening very shortly after we resume our Premier League. And so if there's going to be some money there in January, and apparently there is,
they're not going to give him any money to spend, mate. They're not. They're not going to. And that's what I'm saying, Chuck.
You can't have players like Skamaka and Paqueta dropping and stuff. 180 million and be down near the bottom of the table.
Tommy, if you was the owner, would you give that man another penny? Personally, no, I don't think there is another man. I don't think there is not another manager that can devalue a player like he can. It's ridiculous. The list of players.
until he could show me that he's integrating these players and he's getting a tune out of them and we're moving in the right direction and starting to win games and looking good doing it, until that point, I'm not giving him another penny.
No, he's got enough players to be doing better than what he's doing. That would be, because you know what? We're not pushing for top 6 now. We're not pushing for top 7. We're just trying to survive. As far as I'm concerned, I don't think that squad needs anything to survive. It doesn't. They just need some direction. That's what they need. If we was pushing for something more, then I'd say, yeah, fine. Maybe go out, get a right back, get a left back, do this, do that. But you know what? That is a good enough group to survive the Premier League. It really is. We've got more than enough. We've got 5 fucking players in the World Cup. How many of them are first-team players? Paqueta, the heart of the Brazilian team. Kehrer, I know he's been awful, but he's not a right back. He doesn't play right of a back 4. He doesn't. So he looks shocking at right back. But he's kind of one of the first names on the team sheet for Germany. We've got so many good players. Declan Rice as well. He's got world-class players, and we're sitting 1 point above the relegation zone. And the thing is, right, it ain't like I'm an entitled West Ham fan, Tommy. It ain't like I've never known us to be shit, because I have. But the style of football that we have played for the last year, when you consider the crop of players that we've got and the talent that we've got, and it has been a year, it's been since December, it's a crime. It's a crime how we set up to play football against other teams. That is what annoys me. I can accept if it's Sam Allardyce days and we haven't got the best squads and you just got to do what you got to do to survive. Fair enough, you ain't going to like it. But what kills you and sucks the life out of you in this situation is you can see the talent that we've got there, and it is so wrong that he sets up in that way. It's inexplicable as far as I'm concerned. Yeah,
and I keep hearing this excuse, and it drives me absolutely fucking mad. We've got a few new players, and it takes time to integrate them in and get them, in tune with everything we're doing.
They're going backwards. Integrate them in. Schumacher and Paqueta got worse.
Yeah, and using that as an excuse for our results. I'm sorry. We integration. We started the season with 1 new signing starting in that team, and that was Thilo Kehrer, and that was only because we had injuries at centre-back. If we'd had 1 more centre-back available, we wouldn't have even had Kehrer starting.
No.
So spare me this, takes time to integrate. These players, they haven't been all chucked in. You might possibly make an excuse if he's chucked in 5 new players, and we're saying, okay, it's taken a little time to gel. Maybe you could excuse it.
Yeah.
But, he's been drip-feeding these players in. That's not an excuse to me whatsoever. I think some of the excuses that come out to excuse our performances and our results are absolutely pathetic. And this whole thing about giving time, it's only... What was it? Was it Tony Gale? I think was saying that... Tony Gale was a great player for us, but I'll be honest, Nick, he fucking melts my head. Talking about football. And
I like him as a person. We went to a night out, a charity night, and he was a compere. He's funny. He's a good guy. But a lot of the media, if you listen to TalkSport, you listen to anyone. The only one that does kind of ever sort of speak, I would say, from a fan's perspective, is probably Simon Jordan. Funny enough, everyone else, they all say the same thing. Oh, David Moyes gets sacked. Oh no. They're all in the defence of him, and that'll be whether that's a West Ham related pundit or whoever it is. It just feels like, I don't know, you don't get any honesty with anyone anymore. You're getting that with I'm not being funny. You get that not just on the mainstream media, you get it on West Ham fan channels as well. It's almost like that narrative is pumped out, even amongst fan channels, which, as far as I'm concerned, should be impartial as well. Because I think that's probably, for me, that's what I think attracts people to fan channels, is the fact that you haven't got all that bollocks. We're not led by a narrative. We're just coming on. We're the same as everyone else, and we're just speaking our minds and being open and honest. And I think you've got a bit of that as well on some channels, not all, but it's just sugarcoating a situation, ignoring the facts. And even this at the moment, it's like this situation with David Moyes. It's boring now. So let's go and talk about transfers and stuff like that. Well, I'm sorry, you can't say on one hand that David Moyes is going to be sacked, or he's got 3 games to save himself, and then on the other hand, start talking about transfers, because they're not going to give him any money to buy anyone. So do you know what I mean? The only story is, as painful as it is, Tommy, as painful as it is and as boring as it is, I'm bored with it. I'm frustrated though. I'm worried. But this is the only thing. We're in purgatory, aren't we? We're in purgatory at the moment, and I think this is the only thing that matters at the moment. It's the only thing that matters.
Yeah, and here's another worry that I have. If we dawdle and allow Moyes to remain in charge, and we have the scenario where we get, say 3 losses on the bounce against Arsenal, Brentford and Leeds, and then they sack him, we're into January with a brand new manager who's coming into the middle of a really busy period of football. Plus we've got, Conference League starting up again a few weeks after. We're already into the transfer window.
Yeah.
It's going to be difficult for him to make good use of the January transfer window if he's just parachuted in January. You get him in now, he has all that time ahead of him. He can work with the players, as we've already said. Yeah, he's in there. 1st of January, bang, he's on it. He's already discussed with Newman the kind of players he'd like to get in. Maybe mention some names, and if they know who they're going to approach, which clubs for what players, as soon as that January transfer window opens, and we can get cracking on strengthening the squad. But what do you think? I mean, I think you almost may as well fucking just stick with Moyes if you don't sack him now.
No. Because I think you've either got to sack him now or back him. To be quite honest, I don't want to back him. I don't want to back him at all. But because all we're going to end up with, if we sack him after those 3 games, we're going to end up with a Moyes Mark II. I would rather just fucking see it out to the summer, and then maybe go again. I don't know. I wouldn't rather that. I can't bear it. I can't bear the football. I say that, but what I don't want another. Why have we got to keep on having this merry-go-round with managers that are not fit for purpose? I mean, like I say, I think we are an attractive proposition now, Tommy, aren't we? At this point, I know we're 1 point above the relegation zone. We're only 15 games in. We've got a fantastic squad. We're in the last 16 of a European competition. It's an opportunity for a manager to come in and be an instant fucking hero, because that's a competition that anyone would fancy winning as West Ham manager. Yeah. And we shouldn't be that difficult to save. And the thing is, what makes me laugh with some of the defences of Moyes, and they talk about the things that he's done, they always refer to the fact how he saved us. He saved us. Well, he saved us from probably a better situation than this, if we're being honest. I know we were 17th when he came in. We weren't quite in the relegation zone, but he has started worse than Pellegrini did that year. He started worse. If we get a couple of losses after that, we're going to be in a far more perilous situation. So, but the thing is, and that is why I can't allow myself to listen to the nonsense that comes out, the official line, Tommy, because they can't come out and say we're going out looking for other managers, because they can't. It's libelous. They can't do it. They'll be in. There's all sort of legal issues there. So they're not going to do that. So they're publicly backing the manager. They're going to be exploring their options 100%. I have to believe that. I can't let myself believe that they are that fucking negligent. I can't believe that Kretinsky, as you've alluded to, is going to, who bought West Ham at the probably at the peak. It was when we beat Liverpool. Do you remember when he came in? We beat Liverpool November the 7th. That was kind of his first game at the club when he'd made his investment. It's been downhill since there. I know we had the European journey, but I say the European journey, right? Look at it. Look at it factually. From that game, from the November the 7th, with the exception of a fucked up Masuaku miss kick, which got us a win against Chelsea, we got Lyon and we got Sevilla. That is all we got between November the 7th and the end of the season. That was it. In the last 7 games of the season, we won 1 game. We beat Norwich. That's all we won. A lot of people say it was a success last year. I think the January transfer window was a failure. I think we flopped out of the FA Cup. I'm going to say it now. We bottled it in the semi-final of the Europa as well, and we bottled it in the league. We should have got more. After the start that we had at the start of that season, to not capitalise on it was a fucking joke. We should have done better than we did last year. It wouldn't have taken much more of an effort, Like I said to you, we only won 1 of our last 7. That was against Norwich. It was already relegated. So this has been coming for quite a long time.
Norwich, and that's Norwich were already on the beach.
They were.
They weren't interested. But yeah, I mean, I think even Alex Kral mentioned it in a recent interview where he was
That was
saying,
scathing,
for the
scathing that
Frankfurt,
was.
yeah, he was saying for the Frankfurt game that the first 11 were just burnt out.
Yeah,
They
and they all
just
knew
had
it.
absolutely nothing left.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, we knew it too. I mean, these players were not getting any rest, and I mean, it became almost inevitable that we were going to fall down in Europe. It was going to catch up with us, and it did. And for like now, look, I never saw Alex Kral on the training ground. I haven't seen a lot of him as a footballer, but from what I've seen, is it Schalke he's at now, and
yeah,
from what I'm hearing there in Schalke, he looks a decent player. And he looked a decent player before he joined. He does well for the Czech Republic as well. He's not a mug. This isn't just a useless player. I mean, he's a player to me that could have added something. I mean, Vlasic was criminally underused.
He was never used in his right position. He was never used in his right position. Are you telling? And this is the thing that I said earlier. Or was it earlier on yesterday? Vlasic, right? He never got used in the number 10. Do you think, because I've seen a few games of him playing, I know it's a different league, it's more technical, it's not as fast paced, it's different, but we can't comment on it because we never got to see him in the 10. Do you think he would have been any worse than Paqueta in the 10?
No, absolutely not.
Do you know what I mean? And we're going to let him go for 13 million. I'm going to be keen to watch him because Vlasic is at the World Cup as well. So it's going to be interesting to see, imagine if he turns out one of the stars of the tournament. That'd be amusing, wouldn't it? And we got to let him go for 13 million afterwards.
I know that was actually criminal, to be honest. And
I know.
And I think here's another issue I have with Moyes. I think that's going to continue if we keep him as manager. I think players depreciate under David Moyes generally.
He depreciates players massively, mate.
Yeah,
massively.
Yeah, I mean, the way things are going, the way things are going, within a year, he'll have knocked a few million quid off the value of Scamacca. He'll have knocked a few million quid off the price of Paqueta. God knows who else. And you just can't run a club like this anymore.
No.
You can't, you can't. I mean, we lost our bollocks on Anderson and Felipe Anderson. I mean, we paid big money for Felipe and 40-odd million. We virtually just gave him away.
But do you know the other thing, Tommy? So touching on Felipe Anderson, right? Do you know we never played him on the right wing? It's always where he was used for Lazio. We used him on the left. He's gone back to Lazio. He's been brilliant. They're using him on the right wing. So who would you rather have? A flying Felipe Anderson who's playing well for Lazio now on the right, or Jared Bowen?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, Felipe is a tremendous player. I mean, Felipe is such a quality player. I mean, I loved him, but no, look, he's not great at tackling. He does, he doesn't like a 50-50. Doesn't particularly like to challenge in the air. He's just not one of those kinds. He's not a brave player. He's just not that type of player. So he probably never had a chance with Moyes. He's not probably the best at tracking back. That wouldn't bother me, frankly. He's there to do a job on the right wing, which is get on the ball and score and create goals. And I think he's an excellent player at doing that. And I think he's a really good professional. I thought his attitude, even though he must have been incredibly frustrated and probably felt really hard done by.
And don't forget, Tommy. He had a period of isolation through COVID, where apparently he struggled more than most. There's rumours that guy had he was really suffering mentally as well. Didn't have much family support or anything like that. He was very isolated and came in and was kind of just cast out by David Moyes. It was quite ruthless and that's the thing. When you come into a situation like that, you've got your primary aim has got to be to save the team from relegation. Yeah, that's a primary aim. But it's also your responsibility. You're coming into a team that have just the assets, the existing assets are also your responsibility. Even though that Haller and Anderson are not his signings, they're not his signings. This is still his club now. He's got to try and make the most of those players. And don't get me started on Haller, because all we're seeing with Scamacca is Haller Mark II. That's all we're seeing, Tommy. All the same things are being repeated. It's the same thing. He's cutting the same frustrated, sulky figure because he can't impersonate Antonio.
Exactly the deal. Yeah, he got rid of Haller, and Haller didn't work because Hilaire is not Antonio and could not be Antonio. And he's doing right now the same thing to Scamacca. He wants Scamacca to be Antonio. He's not Antonio, and he's never going to be. You know, he's a quality player. We've seen that in flashes from Scamacca. I just can't wrap my head around spending that kind of money on an Italian number 9 and then not playing to his strengths. I mean, he is the focal point of our attack.
I don't think he can understand it, though, Tommy. I don't think he gets it.
The entire project, Once we signed him, Nick, the entire project should have been for David Moyes and his coaching staff on that training ground. How do we get the ball to the feet or to the head of Scamacca in the box?
Yep.
How do we make that happen as often as possible? And we've done the opposite. He looks just so frustrated. I mean, the Leicester game, again, just like Palace, absolutely nothing to work with. Nothing. And I'll be honest, I don't want to see Scamacca playing like Antonio. Even if he could do it, I don't want him to do it. I don't want to see him around the halfway line. I don't want to see him out in the corners, chasing down balls. I want our number 9 to be in and around the box, sniffing out goal chances. Because we've been crying out for that. For a long, long time, we've been crying out, where's our number 9? When are we going to have a fucking number 9 that knows where the net is? Well, now we've got one.
And Tommy, the guy has shown early in his West Ham career the vast array of his finishing ability as well. He scored all manner of goals, manner of goals. He can score from anywhere. You've got to give him opportunities. People were slagging him off in the last game, saying, "Oh, he ain't done this and he ain't done that." What chances did he get given in that game? Tell me, what chances were created for him? Not one.
Yeah, I'll tell you what.
There was a half chance, a header.
Yeah, I'll criticise him when he misses a glut of chances in front of goal. Then I'll say he's got to shape up and he's got to be taking some of those chances. It's not good enough.
But the thing is, Tommy, can I say something? Nothing. Tommy, and I mean this, and I'm not being pedantic. This is how unsuitable I think this system is to the majority of strikers. I think if we'd have signed Haaland in the summer, I think he would be cutting the same frustrated figure as Scamacca right now in that system. In the Man City, in most Man City games, Haaland touches a ball a handful of times. He plays on the shoulder. He waits for chances to be created for him, and then he finishes them. That's what he does. It doesn't really do much else. But you look at him, Haaland's an absolute world beater because he's in the right team. If he was playing for West Ham, he'd be cutting the same suicidal looking figure that Scamacca's currently cutting at the moment. And I feel sorry for him.
Because when Haaland came in, everybody knew that our job now is to get the ball to that man in the box because he'll score his goals. And, I'm sure Pep would have set training up in that way. He would have got them all communicating, all understanding how they were going to play and how they were going to create chances for Haaland. Yep. And that's what they've been doing. I mean, hit the ground, bang. Against us, 2 goals, bang. Day one. He hasn't looked back because they get the ball to him as often as they possibly can, and they're set up to do that. We are not set up to get the ball to Scamacca.
No.
It's as simple as that. Moyes expects him to be... And I like Antonio, and I think he's done a lot of good things for the club, and I love his attitude. Not the best striker. He couldn't hit Aaron Door, let's be honest. He's just not a finisher. But he's the kind of Carters that Moyes loves. You know what I mean? He's a beast of burden, and Moyes loves these beasts of burden.
I think he's a lazy option, Antonio, because Antonio is the type of player that you can stick him up against 2 or 3 defenders. He'll battle them, he'll fight them, he'll jump up, he'll win a header, he'll go and chase his own flick on. It's kind of he's like a one-man wrecking machine. He hasn't got the technical ability to be sharp and be useful. Look, put it this way: Antonio couldn't be as successful as a conventional number 9 in a good team as what Scamacca or Haaland, someone like that, could be. But I think it's impossible for this type of striker to do what Antonio does. I think it's so unique what he does. And like I say, and I think it's all because it's defence first. And they are alone. And I don't know if you saw Mark Noble's comment where he was talking about how West Ham fans they lose their minds when someone does a couple of step overs, but that player doesn't run back and defend and cover their fullback, and they're damaging the team. Well, look, I'm not being funny. When you're playing the formation that we do, which is a 4-2-3-1 with two central defensive midfielders, the two wide players aren't even wingers. They should be inside forwards. They're not defensive.
Yeah.
Therefore, if either Bowen or Benny have got to track back and babysit either of those fullbacks, then there's something wrong with the fullbacks. There's something wrong with the fullbacks, and that, by definition, is taken away from our creative output. It's making the striker isolated. That is where the problem is, and that's why the likes of Jared Bowen keeps on getting picked all the time, even though on the ball he's been useless this year. He gets picked because of his off the ball work. David Moyes values more what an attacking player does in a defensive sense and what they do in an offensive sense. That's why he's been experimenting with Flynn Downs, who's a fucking CDM in a number 10 position, because he's fundamentally got the defensive work there. Oh, maybe we'll teach him how to pass and have the vision for a through ball.
I mean, like only Moyes would have Fornells playing as a holding winger.
I know.
And Flynn Downs playing as a holding number 10. I mean, it's fucking shocking. I mean, I think for me, when we talk about Moyes and his philosophy and the way he thinks, excuse me, I go back to when he took over at United.
Mm.
He went from having to cut his cloth and doing a very good job, it has to be said, at Everton in cutting his cloth and probably squeezing the most out of that club at that time that he could, given the resources he had at his fingertips. He went to one of the very, very biggest clubs in world football, a club that has spending power, uses that spending power to bring in world-class players all over the pitch. And what tells me everything there is to know about David Moyes, he signed Marouane Fellaini.
He signed Fellaini, I know.
That's the limitations of David Moyes' thinking on football. He couldn't grasp the notion of what it meant to be at Manchester United or to be at a truly big club. And
he can't evolve.
He can't fathom that kind of thinking. He cannot evolve.
He can't evolve, and that is definitive proof. Basically, he tried to turn Man United into Everton in the way that they played. They had a ridiculous, an embarrassment of talent. They play a different way. The David Moyes style is fine if you because look, let's have it straight, right? When he was at Everton, he did well. He was there 8 years, 10 years, whatever it was. The guy was constantly problem fixing, even though he did well in several seasons. He had him up, top 6, top 7, top 4 a few times. But he was in his comfort zone, Tommy. He was scrimping and scraping. He's fine going out finding your Craig Dawsons. He was scrimping and scraping and going out trying to cobble players together. Always the underdog. Loves being the underdog. The minute he doesn't like expectation on him, the minute he's in a situation where all of a sudden there's expectation on him when he's at Man United, West Ham in the summer, we just spent 180 million. He's gone more defensive than ever. It's like he shits himself. He's kind of... He can't handle the weight of expectation. He does. He's comfortable being the underdog. He's a small-time manager, Tommy. I hate to say it. He is. That's how I would profile him.
Yeah, which is why I think we're flogging a dead horse here. And why I think his time is up at West Ham. He was the manager we needed at the time. He did the job that we needed him to do. But he cannot do the job that we need our current manager to do. Yeah. Going forward, it's just not in him. Like you say, there's a reason. There's a reason he did really well at Preston. There's a reason he did really well at Everton. There's a reason why he flopped completely at Man United, and there's a reason why he did really well initially at West Ham.
Yeah.
Because as you say, he was in his comfort zone. He's like, right, this is what I know. I know how to do this. But unfortunately, when you're talking about Italy's number 9, Brazil's number 10, England's number 4, Morocco's number 5 or whatever Aguerd is, he's got no clue how to deal with that. He doesn't know how to bring this team on. And I think as well, just to go back to something you said earlier, actually, about another reason to get a new manager in now, is that, like you said, I think any manager who's looking at potentially becoming our manager looks at that squad, and I don't think he's too worried about our league position. I think he looks at very good squad, 15 games played, lots of season left, and things are still relatively tight in the Premier League.
Listen, for the right manager, we are not in a relegation battle at the moment. For the right manager, they'll look at that and go, no. They'll look at the players that we've got. It's not a problem.
Yeah, and the thing with managers as well, Nick, is that you must remember is that they've got egos.
Yeah.
Any manager who looks at our squad will think, yeah, I can win games with them. I'll get them right up the table, me. I'll get that team going. I'll get them playing. I'll get them up the table. I'll do a job. Managers have egos. They always believe when they go into a job that they're going to do a great job. And they're going to win games.
Well, they have to. They have to believe in themselves. But I think sort of with you talking about ego. Well, there's egos. There's good and bad egos. I think what's tipped the scales. I mean, look, I've been Moyes out for a while, to be quite honest. But the majority of West Ham fans have been basically. It's not. They're patient. West Ham fans are patient. They're very grateful for what he delivered to West Ham. You know, they're very grateful for those 2 years, you know, the 2 top 7 finishes. They are. And the vast majority of fans were so faithful to him. And I'll tell you what, I think what switched it, and I did notice that the trend change, it weren't just the football, it was that post-match interview, which was like the cupping of the ear to the fans when he referred to us as experts. That was an outright smack in the face to a lot of fans that have been pissed off this year, but they've been sticking with him. They've been sticking with him. They've been faithful to him, if you like. That was an absolute smack in the face. And so many fans have turned since then because we're not fucking stupid. West Ham fans, we do understand football. It's just that some of us are more impatient than others. I'm very impatient. So I think everyone's been able to see the type of football that we've been playing and it ain't been good, but he's had credit in the bank. They've wanted to sort of repay some faith in him and stuff like that. But then that comment that he made there, I think the mask slips a little bit. And he showed what a prick he is, to be quite honest, because that was an awful thing for him to say. It was, and he'd been building up to that. He's been making a few comments like that in the weeks previous as well. You know, he really fancies himself. So, and the thing is, Tommy, I will say, when the West Ham fans do turn, he might think he's Billy Big Bollocks, but when the West Ham fans do eventually turn in that stadium, it's going to be hard work for him to get him back on side again.
Yeah, it's
when they turn
it's
on,
unlikely to happen. Yeah, it's unlikely to happen. I think once you lose the fans, as you say, very difficult to get them back because it takes a lot. You know, it takes a lot. Like you say, I think as a fan base, I think we're very patient. I think there have been a lot of us that do not like the way we play, the style of play, before we even get to tactics. You know, a lot of us haven't liked it, but we put up with it. Because, look, we were in the top half of the table. We were in Europe. Things were going well. So it was like, okay, if you're getting results, fair enough. But you cannot play this kind of football and lose.
No way.
You just can't do it. If you're going to play a more, shall we say, industrial style of football, as we do, you better win games. Because once you stop winning them and you start losing, it's going to get old real quick. Because not only are you losing games, you're not even being entertained. You know what I mean? So
even at the top end, Tommy. I mean, look. Listen, I fucking detest Spurs. You know, I enjoy Tottenham losing almost as much as I enjoy West Ham winning. That's how much I hate them. But people have been sort of having a go at them this year because of their frustration with Conte. And you know what? I know a few Spurs fans. And you know something? It isn't kind of. They're fucked off with the style of play, Tommy. They've got good players. And what it is, it's the same with Conte. You can't have players like what they've got, like what we've got, go out and play like that. Play 45 minutes of football. They do the same thing. Conte's like Moyes. They play 45 minutes of football because they have to wait until they go a goal, 2 goals down before they get going again, just like us. It's sickening. You can't, like you just said, you cannot play that way and then lose because you've got to give the fans you've got to give us something out of the game. So if you're getting results,
Yeah,
then
and
you'll
I
swallow
think,
it. You'll
yeah,
swallow it.
and I think, it doesn't surprise me that Tottenham fans don't like it. I mean,
No.
Whatever we think about Tottenham as a club, I mean, they always have been known for playing a very
Yes.
pleasant brand of football. They've always played a really nice brand of football. I think they're kind of like us in that sense, is that they want to be entertained. They want to see the ball on the deck. They want to see the pass and move football. They want to be excited. They want to be entertained. They're not being entertained right now. And despite the fact they're going quite well in the league,
Yeah, they are.
there's still that thing that gnaws away at you, because you look at the style of football and say, okay, we won 2-1 today, or we won 1-0 today, but it wasn't good to watch and I wasn't entertained. And it's like 3 points, yeah, great, but Jesus, surely
When was the last time? When was the last time you felt elated at a win? Well, now, what I mean by that is when West Ham win, I generally feel just a sense of relief. That's it. That's my feeling. But when you go to a game and your team are bang on it and you rip another team to pieces, that's different. That's a different feeling. You're elated. You kind of knocked another team off the park. When was the last time that West Ham felt like that? Honestly, West Ham fans, we don't do it. We don't do it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think back. I think maybe when we did 4-0 on Wolves or something like that, or one of the 3-0s against Leicester or something like that.
But what I mean is it's a while ago, isn't it? It's not recent memory.
Yeah, I'm going back. I'm kind of struggling.
Yeah.
It's been a while. Now, obviously, look, there was the elation at the result at home to Sevilla. But that was kind of probably less to do with the style of play and more to do with the occasion. That it was a huge occasion.
The European
historic win. So that was amazing.
To be fair, the Lyon and Sevilla games, I'll take nothing away from him. He has given us two of probably the most memorable nights of our lives supporting West Ham. He has. But look, they were early round fucking games. When we got to the semi-final, the money shot, if you like, he had two bites of the cherry, and he fucks it in both of them. He did. He got it wrong in both. I mean, did you see the kitchen sink that he threw at the Frankfurt game at the end of the end? Because I didn't. It just felt like he accepted his fate. He didn't go for it, did he? In that semi-final, right at the end.
Yeah, it's like he was happy just not to be well beaten.
Yeah, I know.
Just to keep the aggregate score tidy.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, we was unlucky. He can say after that one.
Yeah, but I suppose he had
his favourite one.
Yeah, well, I suppose he had a scapegoat that night as well. We could. Everyone else was kind of looking beyond all of that and blaming Cresswell, which I think is, Cresswell. It was the second time Cresswell had done it, so silly boy. I won't lie, I was fucking angry at Cresswell for a while.
Yeah, I was. It was poor. It was poor from him. But again, you're talking about a player. You're talking about a player who's getting on, who had been overused in the season because we had no squad. Look, Cresswell's needed help or backup, or he's needed to be the backup for over a year now. He had the January transfer window, and that's why I think it pisses me off when David Moyes and other people use the fact that we brought 8 players in this window, right, as a reason. Oh, it's a mass rebuild. Well, yeah, it's a mass rebuild because we brought fucking no one in January. We underinvested the summer before, so we've had to go out en masse and bring a load of players in now because they differed in the previous windows. That's why we've had to do this, and it's looking like we're going to have to do something similar again in the next window. Because I think come January, there's quite a few players, Tommy, that can be they can start sorting out pre-agreements because they're coming towards the end of their contract. So I think it's January, they can sort out pre-agreements to start joining other clubs. There's rumours that Soufal, not that bothers me at all, is going to go and join Leverkusen. Although I'm starting to feel like what's his name, Soufal, might actually be our best option at right back now, and that's saying something.
Yeah, I think whoever's in charge. I mean, I'd like to see that addressed in January. I think the right back position has to be addressed in January. I think it's a vital position for us. I think it's actually quite criminal. I don't know exactly how it's happened behind the scenes, but I think it's criminal that we've got to the point where Harrison Ashby wants to fuck off to Newcastle as soon as possible. I think that lad's got so much talent, and I think he should already have played a lot more football for us than he has. And I think he should already have it in his mind. I've been told you are the future of West Ham at right back as long as you come in and show us that that's what you are.
Moyes ain't going to bring him through. He ain't going to bring him through. I'll tell you what, if Haaland or Mbappe were in David Moyes' academy, we still wouldn't have seen them yet. We still wouldn't have seen them. They'd be smashing them in for the under-23s.
Yeah, Haaland would be coming off the bench, in the 80th minute. Or he'd be, any games he did start, he'd be up front on his own, absolutely nothing coming up there. And so he'd end up having to, he'd end up back on the halfway line.
Yeah. There's another one there. Look. Andy's just put in the chat, Andy, how many windows did Moyes spend chasing Lingard? And you know what? That is another one. How much of a fucking flop has Lingard been? How much of a relief is it that we didn't get Lingard? You could see towards the end of Lingard's stint, Lingard had a point to prove when he came in. That batch of games that he had, he was never, ever, ever going to repeat that, Tommy, ever. In fact, he was struggling that was adrenaline he was playing on. Everything he hit turned to gold. It was a real strange period. I don't think anyone could have predicted him coming in and turning into Messi for 10 games. But
no, like you say, I think much like the Payet situation, it was just about timing. The timing was perfect. Because you remember when
he would never have hit those heights again, though, Tommy. He would never have.
No, Payet would never have done that again. He really wouldn't. No. Either. I don't think Payet would have hit, and Payet was far more talented than Lingard. Now, Payet would still have been a very good player for us. Don't get me wrong.
I would have taken him back. I know people won't like that, but I would have taken Payet back.
Yeah. But I think the same thing happened with Payet. If you remember, he was out in the cold really with Didier Deschamps, who was the French manager at the time. His talent was well known in France. His ability was well known. But he was perceived as someone who kind of blew hot and cold and couldn't be relied upon consistently. And I think when he came to West Ham, if you remember, in the summer of 2015, we had the Euros coming up in 2016. And he was absolutely desperate to prove himself to Didier Deschamps and to make that French team, that he could be consistent and that he should be in the team come the Euros. And so, I mean, he was so highly motivated in the 15-16 season, Payet. I mean,
I think you're right. I think you're right.
And so I think the same thing happened with Lingard.
But what a season he gave us there, Tommy. God, unbeliable. I don't think I've ever seen a player as talented as that play for us. I mean, I have. I've seen obviously Di Canio, but I don't know.
Not on that level.
He was different. He was different. He made he was truly world class, because a truly world class player will make everyone else look better around them. Noble was like Tony Cruz that season, wasn't he? He was unbelievable.
They say a rising tide lifts all boats, Nick. So I think that's what Payet did. And he drew so much attention to himself as well. He'd have 2 and 3 players around him every time he got on the ball, and so the likes of Noble and Lanzini kind of really flourished because of it as well. Lanzini had a great season, his best season for us as well that season.
He did. He was superb. Black Country Hammer's got a great point there, and you know what? And I agree. So he said, "Look, sorry everybody, I'm going towards GSB out. If the ball don't act in the next week or so, And you know something, Black Country, that's the only way it's going to work, because another reason why the board like David Moyes is because he's an arse kisser and he assumes full responsibility for everything he does. He's a firewall between the board and the fans. He takes it. He'll take a beating. And I think the minute attention starts shifting towards them, which it will, there's no point moaning at Moyes now. He can't do any worse than what he's just done. It physically can't really get much worse. I'm expecting us to lose to Arsenal. He's done his bit. As far as I'm concerned, if the ball don't do their bit now, I will be. I'm going to be switching my attention firmly onto Golden Sullivan, because if they don't act and they don't replace him, then that is negligent, Tommy. And I will be I'll be going full on. I'll be GSB out. I will. GSBK out now.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, ultimately, they're the custodians of this club. And their job ultimately is to ensure the future kind of health of the club.
Yeah.
And like you say, we're at the point now where it's clear that Moyes not only cannot take us any further, but is actually now detrimental to the future.
Why is he even? Why are we still talking about him? It's
it can't. Crazy.
I know.
Yeah, we should be sitting here talking about our new manager.
I know, Sean Dyche. We should be.
know what? I know you jest. Nick,
I'd take
right?
him. I would take him. But he would be a
I'm gonna
short
put
term.
this
It would
here.
be a short term thing, though, Tommy. I do think it would
Yeah.
be. I do worry that we would be back here in a few years. However, you don't know because, like I said, I've done a video the other day about Dyche, and the thing is, it's hard to typecast Dyche with Burnley because we've only ever known him in that situation. Now, but Moyes got his chance at Man United away from Everton because look at Burnley like an Everton for Moyes. Dyche did an interview on TalkSport the other day, and he said, "Look, he said at the end of the day, he said I did what I had to do to survive with the players that I had." He said, "Obviously, if you go to another club and you've got more resources," he said he used Tottenham as an example. He said, "If I go to Tottenham, they've got this long history of playing good football." He said, "You always do your job." He said, "And your job as a manager is more." He said it in a way that you've got to please the club, as in the fans and everyone else. You've got to kind of fit in with the club. So I don't know. I don't think it would be. He wouldn't be my first choice. I'll be honest. He wouldn't be my first choice. But would it be a disaster if you offered me Dyche now or Moyes? I'll rip your arm off. I'll take Dyche. If that was our only option, I would take him. I would.
I'll be honest.
I think he'd probably do all right. I think he'd probably do all right.
I have the same suspicion as you that I think he's been pigeonholed because of the way he set Burnley up to play. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, he cut his cloth accordingly. You know, he had very, very limited resources at Burnley. I mean, I think he did a fucking miracle job up there.
No, that's it. And he just couldn't keep doing it. That's all. He couldn't keep on repeating the same miracle every year. It was every year he was. And the thing is, he used to play with two up front. He did what he had to do. He played an old-fashioned game, I think, Sean Dyche. It was more or less a 4-4-2, wasn't it? He
had Ashley Barnes and Wood. He had Barnes and Wood up front. Basically he always made sure that he had like quick, tricky wingers who could cross a ball, the likes of Dwight McNeil. And basically they got the ball out wide and they just put ball after ball into the box because like Chris Wood and Ashley Barnes are really strong in the air. But they're also not half bad, finishers on the ground. And Sean Dyche basically said, look, I've got these two guys up top, these two forwards that are bullies, absolute bullies, that can cause untold problems to centre-backs. We get the ball out wide, we get it down the wings, we get the ball in, no messing about, get that ball in as quickly and as often as possible to Wood and Barnes, and it worked. And people knew every week what Burnley were going to do. Yeah. But it's hard to stop it. It was kind of almost beautiful in its simplicity. I think he did a phenomenal job up there. But again, I think he may have been pigeonholed. And I'd actually like to see Sean Dyche. I think he did.
No, I think he deserves another crack at a top job. But like you say, but then again, do you know what?
For example, let's say, just for example, this has popped in my head. Let's say you gave Sean Dyche the Southampton job. Okay, it's not a brilliant squad of players, but I think he's got some footballers there.
He had a better squad than Burnley.
Yeah, I don't think he'd play the same way with Southampton as he did at Burnley.
No. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, look, I think English Yardie said there, look, Tommy and Nick, with Moyes in charge, our younger academy players have no chance. And do you know what? Yeah, look, Potter last week started an 18-year-old in defence for Chelsea. Moyes would never do that. I feel for our youngsters. And people are really going in on the likes of Ashby. Now, I'm not being funny. I said to John's on our channel, John's son plays for Leyton Orient. And we had this conversation about Ashby. And I said, look, they're both season ticket holders. They both go over there. Freddie's he's West Ham mad. I said, Freddie's in a West Ham academy. I said, he's 17, 18, right? I said, he's good enough to be getting a chance. I said, he's not getting a chance, John. I said, he's being shoved to the back of the line. I said, another club comes along and they say, we'll bring him in. We'll get him playing top flight football. I said, what's your advice going to be? And John said, he said, I'll be honest with you. He said, go and play football. They've got to.
Exactly.
It's no good for these boys. We're not helping them in any way.
Yeah, and I tell you what, Nick, to compound matters, it's only going to get worse because the way we're playing and the way our results are and where we are in the table, it's become now almost impossible for Moyes to give anyone a chance and let them make whatever mistakes they're going to make. You can bring a youngster into a team that's playing well, like Newcastle right now. If they got an injury, to Trippier, say, and they had Harrison Ashby on the books, as part of that squad, Eddie Howe is in a position where he can chuck him in.
Yeah.
He can say, "Go on in, Harrison. Let's see what you've got, son." Because
Eddie
he's got this really good
Howe
team
will
around him.
as well.
That are playing well, high in confidence. But if you're a team where we are right now, playing the kind of football we're playing, looking over our shoulder at the relegation zone, as a manager, you're just not inclined to chuck a youngster in because you just can't afford to. You've got to start winning games. You've got to stop losing. You can't afford to put him on the pitch and have him make a mistake. You remember Declan Rice as a youngster up in Newcastle? First half, made a big error, cost us a goal. He got whipped off at half time. The manager was back then, we were doing all right at that time, and the manager was able to put him in, could get him off at half time, but put him in again. And say, all right, look, you made a mistake, but you're 18. Don't worry about it. You'll learn from it. You'll improve. But we're not in a position now to do that. We need to get a manager in who's going to get us up the table, get us playing proper fucking football, winning some games. And then you've got that luxury in a team that's full of confidence and doing really well, where you can pop in a youngster or two. And it's not going to kind of upset the overall flow of the team.
I just want to see us starting to play. I just want to see good football now, Tommy. Fuck top 6, fuck top 4. I just want to see. I miss chaotic West Ham. I miss us being. I miss that West Ham where almost through the ground. I know it sounds crazy now, but I'll miss us losing to teams that we should beat, but then going to teams that you don't expect us to win, and we'll fucking win. We'll turn them over. I kind of miss that. We're boring. We've become so boring and so repetitive. Yes, I want us to be better than that. Of course I do. And I think we can be. But what I'm saying to you is I don't really identify with this Moyes version of West Ham. I don't like it at all. It's bland, because when you play this way, you're either and you don't win, you're either Conte in the top 4 fighting for Champions League, or do you know what? We are basically Burnley. That's the style of football that we're playing. Or we're Stoke City. That's the style of football that we're playing. It's dull. And what are we doing it for? We're doing it to survive. How can you justify spending 180 million, which that's the... I've said this so many times. 180 million is the third highest amount spent in the summer in the world by any club. Any club. We've spent the third most money. The third most money of any club in world football in the summer.
You know what? Some people call it Moyes ball. You know what I've been calling it these last few weeks?
Shit.
Poverty football.
Yes, that is. I know. Yes, that's right.
So we're a team full of talent that should be comfortably in the top 10, pushing for a European spot. Should be walking over Palace, frankly.
Yeah.
Albeit they've got some decent players, we shouldn't be fucking losing at home to Palace.
No.
But because Moyes is our manager, we're playing poverty football. We're playing like a team that just came up, and his remit with his team of basically championship players is don't go down, try and keep us in the league. And it's I can't wrap my head around Moyes' mentality where he thinks that's the way to go with the team that he's got. It's poverty football, and we should not be playing poverty football. We should be puffed out chests most weeks with teams we play.
100%. If you go down, you go down playing your game. You go down fighting. I'm just going to correct John because John's taken exception to I expect this as well. The Sean Dyche thing. Listen, Dyche isn't my choice. He's not. But I maintain if you could offer me anyone at the moment over David Moyes, I'm being honest now. And I'm not being put down. Like I say, I want Moyes out every bit as much as I wanted Fat Sam out, maybe more at this point, because Fat Sam never had the embarrassment of riches that David Moyes has got. Watching what David Moyes is doing with this group of players is killing me. It's embarrassing. I can't watch it. It's not right. It's criminal what he's doing. I want him out. I fucking want him out. I want him gone. I do. It's not acceptable to me.
Yeah, and to expand on what you were saying a minute ago as well about the style of play that we would like to see when we come here. I think Moyes doesn't get fans whatsoever. Moyes cannot identify with fans in any way, shape, or form. That's why he said the whole experts thing, right?
Yeah.
So he cannot identify with fans. He's a multi-millionaire manager. He cannot identify with fans. He's too far removed from it. So what he doesn't get is that we're ordinary folk. We work hard all week. We spend, a lot of our income, really, or a lot of fans do. Obviously, I'm in Ireland. I don't get to do that so much, but certainly in England, the fans in London and around England who go to a lot of the games and follow West Ham everywhere, that's a huge commitment personally and financially.
Yeah.
And what we want, when we put that kind of outlay into it, we do it because of the passion and the love we have for the club, and we want to be entertained. Is that too much to ask? Is it too much to ask that we go and we actually enjoy the fucking game? Given the commitment that's required financially and personally to follow a club.
It's soul-sucking.
Understand that.
And when he came out, Tommy, when he came out and he said, he needs more of an atmosphere in stadium. Well, I'm not being fucking funny. Play some entertaining football, okay? We're British. There are hardly any British teams that do the ultras things that they'll do in Europe, where I don't even think they're going for football. It's like tribalism. I don't know what they do. Just jumping up and down for 90 minutes, even when there's no football being played. We don't do that. It's not kind of what we do. We respond to what's happening on the pitch. And also in that stadium, Tommy, it's even more polarized because we're further away from the pitch. So because of that dynamic, it ain't Upton Park anymore. You are disconnected. I don't think the fans can really lift the team anymore like we used to. We were the 12th man at one point. I don't think we are anymore. We're spectators now. And yes, it can be good. You can have a great atmosphere in there, but it's not intimate. It's not the same thing. It's not intimidating to the opposition. It's never going to be.
They built a fucking wall. They built a fucking wall between the home and away fans.
I know. But him saying that, I kind of, you just think to yourself, think before you fucking, and that goes to prove it. He doesn't see anything wrong in what he's doing. The fact, if I can't imagine it, I think he's going to Qatar. I think there's been conversations had. I'm just trying to sort of rationalise it in my own brain. It's almost like he's gone out there. I think it's done. That's what I have to believe, or I'm going to explode. So I'm choosing to believe. I'm choosing to believe.
It's a defence mechanism.
It's keeping me level. It's keeping me level, Tommy. It's
a defence mechanism. Yeah,
it's keeping me level because he must think that everything's okay. If he was in a situation where he accepted that things weren't right, he would never be going away to Qatar. He'd have them all on the training ground. He'd be trying to team build, but he never questions himself, Tommy. He never questions himself. There's always an excuse. There's always a reason. There's always something. And the thing is, Paul Chambers has said, I bloody hope so, Nick. Mate, it would be bizarre. And that's what I'm saying to you. It would be so out there if they didn't take advantage of this window. Like you said earlier on, Tommy, it would be so out there if they didn't do that, that if they don't, and I tell you what, if we go and we get walloped against Arsenal and then we lose to Brentford, that atmosphere over there is going to get toxic to Burnley levels. I'm telling you.
And like you say, and like you say, attention is going to switch.
It'll go to them. It'll go to them.
It'll have to. This will no longer be on Moyes.
It will have to.
Yeah.
And
it'll no longer be on Moyes.
Trudge has got no problem with him scouting, and maybe he'll come back and play a new formation. Fingers crossed. Trudge, scouting, seriously, you would give him more money to spend, would you? Would you? This is your money we're talking about, Trudge. You've just given him 180 million. You've got another 50 million sitting there. You're going to give him more money to spend? No way. That guy just devalues players left, right, and centre. Not a chance. No way. No one would give him more money now. It'd be crazy.
No, it would be ridiculous. I mean, if you can't get a tune, come on, if you can't get a fucking tune out of this squad,
I know.
Why would you? What would bringing in more players do?
More bidding in. You got to give him. We bought in 3 more players. That's another 6 months you got to give him to sort of bed the 3 new players in. Fuck me.
We won't see him until next season anyway.
I know.
Right, well, let's switch our attention to that side of things then.
Go on then.
Let's say he does go.
Tommy,
we have to
Tommy, he's going.
realistically.
Tommy is going, right?
Sorry, let me rephrase. When he goes,
this is my way of being positive, and that is positive because you know something. Most West Ham fans now want him fucking gone. Even John on my channel, who is like he's the most positive West Ham fan that I know, even he switched after the Palace game. That was him done. That was him done with him. The majority of West Ham fans now have switched and they've gone, do you know what? Enough's enough. Fucking get him gone. Kent Hammers has gone as well. Kent Hammers has been backing him for a long time. He travels up and down the country. He's very, very kind of sort of calm and considered and patient. And even he's gone. He's gone. That's enough's enough. And he's got to go. He's going. So I'm being positive. So I'm the light. I see myself as because I refuse to accept that they're going to keep him. They're not. They're not going to keep him. He's going. He's going to go. And Tommy, I think you think that as well, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, my problem isn't that I don't think he's going to go. I think he is. I think it's inevitable. My fucking problem is that he hasn't already. Like,
yes, I know.
I'm incredibly frustrated by our board are now dithering, and I just can't understand why. And like, I hope to God. I mean, I have this thing in my head that maybe the board are thinking, he's done well past 2 seasons, and there's this sense of kind of fairness or something with the board that maybe we owe him time. No, we fucking don't. We owe David Moyes nothing whatsoever. Absolutely nothing.
We owe him nothing. But you got Paul Evans there. He's gone switched after the Palace game. You was right all along, Nick. It ain't about being right all along, Paul. You knew all along as well. Same as John did. The difference is, like I said, West Ham fans, we all know what we can see. We can all see it. But some fans were just basically very loyal to a man that had delivered some good moments for us. That is all it was. It just took more for people to accept it than others. But we all know. It's just I'm always quick off the mark. That's all. But I can completely understand. I can completely understand why people were being faithful to him because he did deliver 2 good seasons. Even though I do think the tail end of last season was a complete fucking failure. Yeah. If I'm honest.
Well, that's it. I mean, like, I love Moyes all summer. And then, because of the first few games of this season, suddenly I'm Moyes out. I've not been happy with Moyes for some time.
Everyone could see it. Everyone could see it. It's just, and the thing is, what people and you could see, even though he weren't being booed and there was no discontent in that stadium, Tommy, you could have heard a pin drop in that stadium all year long. It's been like a silent protest. Even though people haven't been protesting, they've been protesting with their boredom. You just literally like, what is going on here? And that was only ever going to last so long. But yeah, the comment, as I've referred to plenty of times, that was a tipping point. I'm sure it was for many. That was an absolute. I think
it was bad enough. Yeah, I think it was bad enough.
Mugged us off.
The performance that we had to endure, and to then have to listen to that.
Yeah,
literally. I mean, you may as well have just told the fans to fuck off. Fuck off.
That's basically what he said. That's basically what he said. Yeah.
Just in a different way. And
what the fuck did that not know? Don't exactly, I know.
Yeah, you've only been following the club all your life. You only follow it intimately, day in, day out.
Exactly.
What do you know? That's
Well, I'll tell you what, Tommy. Do you know what? Do you know what the funny thing was? Right? He had a go at the West Ham fans for booing him for taking Ben Rama off and then singing Ben Rama's name. Who started the next game against Leicester?
Exactly.
Ben Rama.
And was one of our bright sparks.
Was we wrong? And I know there's stats out there, people saying, "Oh, yeah, I know." But if you have a look at the stats that Jack Elderton's put up, where he had 0 successful passes in the box, I don't give a fuck. There was the only person that was up there trying to get close to Skamaka in that game and trying to make anything happen positive was Ben Rama. He was the only player. He was the only player that when the ball got forward, he got you off your seat a little bit and you thought, oh, something might happen here. We weren't getting the ball to him enough. And yes, look, fair enough. There might be a final ball missing, this, that, the other. But tell me this, why is it that the likes of people that like that put stats out about Benny to back Moyes up, why don't they put stats out about Bowen?
Yeah, and on top of that,
comparative stats. Put Bowen's stats up from that game. Let's see what he done.
I mean, and who else was driving towards the edge of the box with the ball at their feet?
I know. He was so exciting. And you know what? It was enjoyable watching him. His towel was up. And that's the thing. He's kind of I admire it. I admire him a little bit. He must be, because the rumor is he's a bit of an arrogant fucker, right? He must be. Because you would need to be, no, but what I mean is, Tommy, you would need to be working for someone like Moyes, who clearly doesn't rate you, who's clearly fucking publicly trying to humiliate you in post-match press conferences. He must be defiant. He's got to be a defiant character, and so he should be. And that's where it comes down to man management. Every player has to be managed differently. I tell you, who would have loved Ben Rama, Harry Redknapp. Redknapp would have loved Ben Rama. He would have managed it differently.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'll tell you why you're right. And it comes from someone else. There was an interview years and years ago of Raphael van der Vaart. He played for Tottenham under Harry Redknapp.
Yeah.
I can't remember who Redknapp replaced. Escapes me which manager it was. Was it Ardiles or so? I'm not sure. But Van der Vaart joined Tottenham, just couldn't get going. Couldn't get going. Was struggling in the team to fit in and to put in performances, and he was very frustrated. Harry Redknapp came in, plunked him into number 10, and said, "Do what you like.
Yeah,
do what you like." He said, "You have a free role." He said, "You go where you want, when you want." He said, "I just want you on the ball." He said, "Wherever you have to run to get on the ball, get possession, and get turned, and run at them, that's what you do."
Yeah.
Literally had no instructions other than that.
Yeah.
There was nothing about formation or tracking back or all the closing down and all this stuff. It was get on the ball as often as possible. I don't care if you have to run here or here or there to get on it. You get into space every time you can and get on that and demand that ball, and you go make things happen. He said it completely freed him up.
He could just get the best out of players. He could.
He got the best. Raphael van der Vaart at Tottenham under Harry Redknapp was unbelievable.
It's like we said what he used to do with it's like we said what he used to do with Di Canio in training. He used to have to always give. He used to always give Di Canio the best team in training because he could never have Di Canio losing. So he'd always have. He used to have to just manage him differently, manage him with kid gloves. And I think it was John's in the chat now. Look, hello, mate. He said Nick loves Redknapp because of his Spurs connection. Yeah, bit of a connection there. But John was the one who said, because we was having this conversation about Benny, and I said on one of our previous shows, I said, what is he playing for? Because you would think if there was anyone that wanted Moyes sacked, it would be Benny. And Benny looks to be doing everything that he can to make this work. And I said, who is he playing for? And you know something? John did say, he said he's playing for the fans. Benny is playing for the fans. That's what he's doing. He's playing for us.
Yeah,
he ain't playing for Moyes. He ain't playing for Moyes.
When he came off against Palace, he heard the boos and he knew what they were about. He knew those boos were because he was being taken off. And then you hear the crowd singing your name and you understand, it's not me. Benny understood, it's not me. I'm not the problem.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be coming off.
Did you? His reaction was awful. Well, you could see it, couldn't you? He was so frustrated.
Did you hear that fucking bollocks Moyes came out with and saying he picked up a knock?
Rubbish. Absolute rubbish.
Absolute fucking rubbish. Just a straight up lie. Just a straight up lie. And I think you know what.
Vinay said there, look, Benny refused to be Moyesed. He did. Is a credit to himself. Yeah. Because unfortunately, do you know what? And this is where, and I'm not criticising Fornals for this because Fornals is basically, he's a hero, right? But Fornals is a team player and Fornals is a type of guy that will do whatever you ask him to do for the team. And you can see he's that type of person. He'll never question it. But it's been detrimental to Fornals, and it has. And we've forgotten the type of player that Fornals is, ignoring his sloppy pass the other day that led to the second goal. But we saw what Fornals was all about when he came on in that last 15 minutes against Man United. And Moyes' instructions were very clear. You could see it by the way Fornals played. Get on there, make something happen. We saw a different fucking player. Fornals, shackles off. He was beautiful to watch. Flicks, tricks. He was going for it. So, and that's what I mean. We never see that player. We don't see that. We see a fucking he's like a poor defensive winger that we use. You know, Moyes isn't bringing the best out in so many players. He's not. You know, and I understand sometimes you've got to sacrifice yourself for something more. But like I said, it's Moyes' responsibility also. These players are all assets in the club. You've got to be trying to maximise the value of everyone that's there, you know. If a player like Fornals moves on one day, you want to double his value, so you make money on him. But we're not. We'd probably struggle to break even on Fornals now, which would be a crime. Because I maintain, Tommy, I know people are going to probably laugh, I maintain Fornals would fit in the Man City side. He's technically that good. He can move the ball. He's got a brain on him. He could fit in that side. You know,
I'll tell you what, Nick, that's a great point. I think if Fornals had joined City at the time he signed us, you'd see a very, very different player. They would have been talking about him as the natural successor to David Silva.
Yeah, no, he's a brilliant player. He's a brilliant player. And like I said to you, I don't think that he's improved since he came to us. And this is a tragic thing. Because I think some players, some managers, they develop players. Like you'd like to think the likes of Pep Guardiola and Klopp, when you go and play under these managers, they improve you as a player. Moyes doesn't improve anyone. What player has got better under Moyes? Name a player. It's got better under him.
Maybe Rice is, although he was already fucking.
He's world class, though, isn't he? He's world class. He was already kind of established. I think those. Yeah, I don't think he does, mate. I don't think he does. Yeah, like that's true. If you play with better players, you get better. Yeah, but we're playing with better players now, though, John. That's the thing. He's making a good point. Yeah. He's making a good point, but yeah.
Like, I mean, looking at the side, I mean, it seems such an obvious thing to me that Paqueta plays a more deep-lying role for Brazil, and we'll see it at the World Cup, and he does it brilliantly. I mean, and then, Fornals' natural position is in the 10. I mean, ding dong, hello. It's a simple fix. You get Paqueta in midfield with Rice. He's a natural number 8. He loves to get stuck in as well.
Yeah, but that means Souček's got to come off, though, Tommy. That can't happen. You can't do that. That'd be silly. You can't take Souček out.
That'll be the one thing I think Moyes has probably remembered for the most at West Ham is, like, when it comes to his habits, is that certain players, no matter what, were just undroppable.
That is ultimately going to be what has got him sacked. Because I'm telling you now, even with the Moyes style, he's got enough talent in that team. The one of the biggest problems that we've had is Thomas Souček in central midfield. If he'd have played, like you said, if he'd have dropped Paqueta back into the middle alongside Rice, even Fornals, even Flynn Downs, someone like that, and then played natural number 10, we would have played different football. We would have been more attacking naturally, irrespective of Moyes' tactical plan. We would have been better. I think the refusal to drop Souček is ultimately going to have been what, and he's only just started to realise that, because you've seen when he's got desperate in the last few games, he started hooking him with 15 minutes to go, which he would never ever normally do.
No,
he would never normally do.
Yeah, that's the bizarre thing to me. I mean, I spoke about it on this show last Friday night, ahead of the Leicester game. I put the question out. I had a couple of people with me, a couple of our female fans actually that I had on with me, and I put it to them. I think Moyes is under massive pressure coming into this Leicester game.
I'm better looking now, Tommy, aren't I?
Oh, obviously, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
But it's the salt and pepper that does it for me, Nick. I love that look. But I put it to them that he's under so much pressure going into this Leicester game. He could massively use a win before we break up for the World Cup, just to alleviate some of the pressure a little bit. And I said, do you think he'll ever get to the point, maybe tomorrow, where he actually just throws caution to the wind a little bit and tries something more positive and different and uplifting, I suppose? Or do you think he's just going to dig his heels in and do what he always does and just trust in that moment? We all agreed that he would dig his heels in and do exactly the same thing that hadn't been working all along. And then when the team came out on the Saturday at 2:00, I got a message, a DM from one of them on Twitter saying, he did too. He dug his fucking heels in. Cunt. That was the message I got.
Mate, honestly, he's so
that's
frustrating.
The astonishing thing for me, Nick, as well in this, he knows he's on the chopping block, and still, he won't do it.
But the thing is, what
he
people
won't help
can't
himself.
He won't help
do
himself.
To help himself.
He won't help himself. But what kind of got me in that game, right? And I will say, and this just goes to because I've been saying all along, right? With the way that David Moyes plays, people get hung up on team selection. They get hung up on formations, on shape. It's got fuck all to do with any of that with the way that we start a game. Because ultimately, we end up with 9 players behind the ball anyway, irrespective of whatever shape that we play. And that is all to do with instructions. And it's to do with the way that the team is set up. It is because we're different when we come out. Quite often, we look a different team in the second half. So we saw against Leicester, we were set up much differently. Players were further up the pitch. In fact, too far, probably almost naive because we kept on getting caught out. Kehrer kept on getting exposed. He wasn't really playing a formation that suited us to be playing in that way. But we was pressing. We was trying to get the ball, but for fucking God knows how long, we couldn't get the ball off of them. The only reason we even got a foothold in that game was because Maddison went off after 25 minutes. Up to that point, they had 73% possession. That's what they had. At our ground, at home, up to that point, where they was 1-0, and there was 1-0 up quite early on, but after 25 minutes, they had 73% possession. And then thank fuck, Maddison went off, and we did actually, we was playing football at least. We was keeping the ball, moving it quicker. It was nowhere near enough. I think we could have played for a week and not scored.
No.
But yeah, it's just not good enough, mate. It's not good enough.
No, so I suppose before we wrap it up, I mean, if you were able to make the first phone call, to sound out the next manager, who would you be phoning? Realistically,
should we do a top 5? Should we do a top 5 each?
Yes.
Do you want to do that? Right. Okay. I'm going to go for number 1 would be Poch. Would be
Agreed.
Pochettino. Number 2 would be Thomas Frank. I think it would be Thomas Frank. Number 3 would possibly be Thomas Tuchel. I think it would be Tuchel. I know you might think I've got that the wrong way around, but I think I would have Frank in front of Tuchel at this stage. Number 4. Number 4. There's so many, mate. I've reviewed a few. Number 4.
Okay, well, I'll give you.
I'd say number 4. I'll go for one, and everyone's gonna kind of go, no. It would be either as a short term one, Bielsa or Gallardo, as somebody said there. You know, the young Bielsa, Gallardo, because I think what I would like to see coming at West Ham, Tommy, and that's what Bielsa would be, is a visionary, somebody who wants to implement a philosophy, but an attacking philosophy. You know. How fucking nice would that be? You know, that we just play a certain way and just entertain just for a little while. We're not going to get anywhere this season anyway. You know, so if we're going to go mid-table, let's just car crash it. Do you know what I mean? Let's play some really good football. You know, get the players enjoying it, get the fans enjoying it. That I would love. I think Bielsa. It wouldn't be Bielsa's not a long-term appointment. He wouldn't be, but I would. Yeah. I'd be excited. I'd be excited if we got Bielsa. It would be exciting.
I'll tell you what, I've got a very similar list.
Go on.
There's one difference in mine. I wouldn't have Bielsa in mind. He's just a little bit too
mental
for my taste. Yeah, a bit too mental. I just think about the amount of goals we conceded.
I miss the chaos. I miss the chaos at West Ham. I think it'd be like a flashback to the. It'd be brilliant. It'd be very West Ham, I think.
Yeah, we wouldn't be bored. No. Definitely wouldn't be bored. I agree on the others. I think Pochettino would be my number 1 choice.
Yeah.
My second, I would have Tuchel second, I think. I think that would be quite a relatively easy transition, actually. He still lives in London.
Yeah, I know.
He doesn't want to leave. doesn't want to leave London.
There is another one, Tommy.
Yeah.
Mancini. I keep forgetting
Well,
Mancini.
that's my number 3. That's my number 3.
Yeah.
Is Mancini. Mancini is my third choice. I think he's one of the more gettable ones too, actually.
Yes.
I would be optimistic.
He's got his striker, you know, and Scamacca confides in Mancini, and
he knows the Premier League.
Yeah.
You know, very familiar, speaks English, and he's an international manager. And I know it's a great, you know, thing to be very proud of for him, I'm sure, to manage Italy. But they're not at the World Cup. And you know, managers, if international managers, they get a chance at week in, week out club management. They jump all over it. You know, he's essentially in a part-time job. You know, as prestigious as it is.
I think he'd be tremendous.
I think Mancini would be brilliant.
Actually, he's got passion, but he hasn't got sort of wanker Conte passion. You know, hanging off of fucking things, doing all that crap what he does. But I think he would. Yeah, it'd just be nice to. I think he would fit in. He'd fit in well. And what I like about him as well is he's got the balance. He gets his teams playing a very kind of. He's pragmatic, but they play fast. They play in a fast and aggressive way. These teams, but he will set up. He's basically a winner, Tommy. That's what he is. And I think there's 2 types of pragmatists. So a lot of people call Thomas Tuchel a pragmatist, but there's 2 types of pragmatists, and there are pragmatic managers. You know, like your Mourinho's. You know. I suppose a little bit like Mancini, like Tuchel, who basically they will devise a plan to win a game. If that means they've got to plan a certain way to do it, they will do it. But the aim is to win the game. And then there are pragmatic managers that are being pragmatic because they're so shit scared of losing. They're basically, and that is what Moyes is. Moyes is just scared of conceding, scared of losing. His plan isn't all about how he's going to score goals and win and stuff like that. It's about how we can stop the other team playing. That's always his plan.
Yeah. So
anti-football. I hate it.
Yeah. So that's not a bad top 3. Pochettino, Tuchel, and Mancini.
It's ambitious, though. It's ambitious.
Yeah. I've also got Thomas Frank.
Yes.
I think he does a tremendous job at Brentford.
You'd love Bielsa. You'd love Bielsa. Bielsa would be amazing. It'd be fun football.
Yeah, like I said, it certainly would be a roller coaster.
Yeah.
And actually, Gallardo is my number 5. The only reason he's that far down the list is inexperienced outside of Argentina, doesn't speak English.
Yeah.
So I have some reservations about that. But you know, again, over Moyes, you take any of these in the morning.
Would you take a temporary manager like Chelsea did with Benitez that season? Would you take like a Tommy Tickle or Thomas Tuchel for 6 months until the end of the season, just basically to get us through to the end? You know, hopefully win us a competition, and then we can reshape in the summer. Would you take that?
Absolutely. Tuchel, you know, would steady the ship immediately.
He would, he would.
You know,
because he's not gun ho. He's not gun ho in any way.
Yeah, he's not.
But he's not. But what he does, his teams do press though. We don't press. So that's what I mean. The way David Moyes plays football is its shape. So, and that's why we can't have a passing game, Tommy, because to have a passing game, you literally have to pass and move. That's what you have to do. You've got to pass and move. You've got to be dynamic. David Moyes' team, you can't leave your position because it's all about positional play. So it's pass and sit. That is why we can't have a fluid passing game. We just can't, and we never will. Not really. There'll be periods in a game because we've got players with the ability to do it. But because of the way that we're set up and because of the defensive restrictions that they've got, the system, by definition, doesn't allow for a fluid passing game, and it never will.
Yeah. I mean, I think when it comes to Tuchel, I think we could get him under certain circumstances. I think if you were to bring him in and say, look, if you were offered an international job that you want to take, we'll let you walk and take that job. If you get offered a job by a Champions League club, we won't stand in your way. We'll let you go and take that job. I think under those circumstances, he's already in London. He literally just has to fucking jump in his car and drive over, you know, take over the team.
Well, he
like I said, if an international job comes up, or if the Champions League job comes up.
That's what he wants. I mean, the sad thing is with Tuchel is I think he's got a point. I think this is Southgate's last tournament, irrespective of what happens. If we get knocked out early, he's gone. If we win it, he's gone. You know, why would you carry on then at that point? You've won the tournament, you've won the World Cup. I think he's gone either way, Southgate. I think this is his last. So that might be what he's waiting for. He might be waiting for the England job. I don't know.
Yeah, but I just don't want fucking Southgate to be on the open market when we do set Moyes.
Don't you think that it's a bit of a waste for Tuchel to be an international manager? I always feel like that's a little bit of a retirement job. A little bit.
I think it's a waste. I think it's a complete waste of his talents.
It is, yeah.
It's just a strange one to me. I think I can understand an older manager, thinking, I wouldn't mind a crack at managing my country or even a country. But at his age, I mean, he should be completely focused on club football. I mean, it's a strange one to me. Yeah, he absolutely should be. And I think he'd regret it after a while. I think
would do. Yeah. Epic hashtag.
I think the novelty of international management wears off pretty quickly.
It's what's this epic hashtag? I want to see Moyes fight a lion in the Colosseum. I wonder what his strategy would be to stay alive in that instance. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be literally just to stay alive long enough till the lion gets bored and just walks away.
It would be. I know.
You're just gonna just stay alive long enough till the lion gets fucking bored with it all and gets fed up and just literally walks away. And you're left. Yeah, you've got some scrapes and bruises and you're not looking too good, but you're alive. So I think I wonder, is there any? I'm trying to think if there's any managers out there that would be a bit of a wrinkle. There's some people mentioning
there's loads of them, right? And this is somebody that I haven't looked into. People in the chat might be able to. It's a Dutch manager. So there's a chap who commented on one of my videos, a Dutch chap, and he mentioned Peter Bosz, Bosz, who was a manager of Lyon. He was a manager of Lyon when Paqueta was there. He's managed a whole host of top teams, and apparently he does play very, very good football as well. He's highly regarded, so he's another one. There's fucking loads of them. Like I say, you got Gallardo. There's Van Nistelrooy. There's the sport. Someone's mentioned him in here.
Sporting Lisbon. James is always. Do you know James Fever? He's always going on about the Sporting Lisbon manager. He wants him.
I can't think of his name.
Amorim.
Amorim. I can't pretend to know anything about him, but there's a lot of people that are referencing him. Yeah.
Yeah, I know nothing about him either, but I'll take him. Yeah.
I would take Martram the Canteen over David Moyes at the minute, as I've said before.
Yeah. I don't know. I know there's been a few in the comments here in the live chat here as well about this Postecoglou. Is it the Celtic manager? I don't know about that. I think he's managed in the Australian A-League and Celtic. I almost don't count those. I don't kind of care if you've done well at either of those clubs. You fucking should.
Do you know who would be in my list as well? And a lot of people ain't going to like this. So if I'm going, because I'm building my top 5 out again as we go. He's always been a favourite of mine, and I know a lot of people don't like him, but it would be Brendan Rodgers because I like his style of football. I like Brendan Rodgers. I do.
Yeah, I do like absolutely no problem with that. I think he's proven himself. He's proven himself to be a very capable manager.
Oh, absolutely.
In multiple clubs, and so I mean, Brendan Rodgers would absolutely be. I think he'd do really well for us. That's the thing. Another frustrating thing with Moyes is I think there's probably any number of managers that could come in and get a really good tune out of these players. There's a lot of talent, and I just don't want to see it wasted like this. It's driving me mad, actually. Just when you look at the names we can put on the team sheet, and then to see us playing like this and getting the results we're getting, it's fucking shocking. And I don't know.
Epic's got another good point there. What about Potter? He could get sacked soon. 100%. If Potter got sacked from Chelsea, yes, because he's more suited. He's more suited to a club like us than Chelsea. Chelsea are.
He actually would have been my number one choice before
he would have been.
Took the
it would have been for me. Would have been for me. But and Hammerhead said there, look, we missed our chance on Eddie Howe. I always wanted Eddie Howe. I thought it might have been a bit of a risk at the time, but
Yeah.
he's always been. I've always admired the way that he just tries to play football. And do you know something? For all the criticisms of Newcastle and everything else, fair play on them for giving a young English manager a chance. To be quite honest, he's quite brave because they could have gone out and bought and got any big name that they wanted, really. But they've been.
Yeah,
they've been quite brave with what they've done with him, and it's paying
yeah,
dividends.
I think,
He's done wonderful things with them, and he's done it on a smaller budget than what David Moyes has had with West Ham.
Yeah, and
he
I think
has.
that
He spent less than what David Moyes has.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the reason Newcastle hired him. I think Newcastle seem to want to be kind of steady as she goes. A slow burn. We're just going to build and build and build in a sustainable way, rather than going out and doing like Man City, spending hand over fist, like spending money like it's an infinite supply, which I suppose it essentially nearly is to Newcastle. But I think Newcastle owners, I think in credit to them, really, I think they brought in Eddie Howe because they wanted a manager that was just going to steadily bring them along, and wasn't like they bring in some big hotshot manager. He's going to want this and he's going to want that, and I want this much to spend, and I want this worldly player and that worldly player. And I don't think Newcastle wanted to go down that route, to be honest. And fair play to them for that. I think Newcastle are actually doing it the right way.
Yeah, they appear to be, and I think they're going to get there quicker than what most people was expecting. But sort of going back to Moyes for one last time, if you were the board, right, and you were sitting there constructively and you were brainstorming, and we're always talking about things, reasons for him going. What reasons could you have for him staying? So if you're brainstorming, there's loads of things that he does fucking wrong. Like they're literally loads. What reasons can you have for David Moyes staying? So if you're the owner of the club, that's what I would struggle with. What are his positives? What do you love about him? That's the thing. And I just don't think there's many. There isn't really much, is there? There isn't really many positives with him at the moment. There's not. Like I said, we've had him for 2.5 years. We had a good 18 months. It was a good 18 months, but we've had a shit year in the league from November 22 to November this year. It's been shit in the league. So it's been almost approaching 50-50, really.
Yeah, all of the arguments I've heard from people who are still Moyes in, I just would just reject out of hand. Because this credit and the bank shit doesn't fly with me whatsoever. It just doesn't.
Any credit he had, he spent it.
Yeah, this, he deserves time. No, doesn't deserve anything. I can understand giving a manager time if they're building something, and you can see the direction it's going. You can see what the plan is, where we're headed. You can see there's an end goal here, and things are going in the right direction, and you can see a structure there, and you can say, okay, I can see what he's doing. Yeah. I can see where he wants to take us. Let's give him the time to get the players in he needs and to build, the way he needs to build until he gets us to where he wants us to be. I understand time in that sense of giving a manager. I think we all do, and we'd all be willing to give a manager that time. But that's not the situation with Moyes. Moyes has had more than enough time. He's spent more than enough money. He's brought in more than enough players, and we're going backwards.
And this is the other thing. There's one thing I want to say now. Okay, there's a channel that I watched the other day, and they alluded to the fact that perhaps what David Moyes should do is basically bin all of the new players and revert back to the team of last season to basically go direct. And do you know what? If that's what he has to do to get a result, do you know what that means, Tommy? Definitively, that means that he has failed.
Yeah.
It means he's failed because his job this year was to spend 180 million, change our style, and get everything else. If he can only do what he did a year ago, and he can't do anything with these new players, then I'm sorry. And the thing is now, and that's why
itself,
it's a failure.
That in itself is a sackable offence.
It's a fucking failure. You just spent 180 million. And that's the thing. This is what he needs to get through his head now. I think they're trying to realign our expectations in a way with his comments. He's never going to have what he had when he came in. He's never going to be able to rescue us from this situation. We're not going to be grateful to him for smashing and grabbing and crawling through games. That is never going to happen now. That ship has sailed. We've got to build.
Yeah.
We've got to get better. When he came in, we was doing that. We will accept it because we was getting wins and we was moving away from relegation. But this is a situation of he's making. And I'm sorry, with the money that we've spent, I don't think any fans are going to accept a regression in terms of team selection. You can't really get a regression in terms of the style of football because the style of football ain't changed. He just changes pieces. He hasn't changed anything. There's nothing's changed about the way that we play. You know? So
yeah, well, I mean, you know, it's. I think it's at breaking point now for a lot of fans. I just hope it's at breaking point now for the board. Like maybe I don't know what the character or personalities really are of the board members. I'm just the kind of person I'm not sentimental about players.
They can't be happy.
I'm not sentimental about managers. Yeah, and if you're a board member, you can't be sentimental about players or managers. You just can't be. Your remit is to do whatever is best for the club in that moment.
Yes.
If it means jettisoning a player, you jettison the fucking player. If it means jettisoning the manager, you jettison the manager. I don't want to hear about last season. I don't want to hear about 2 seasons ago. I don't want to hear about runs in the Cup or runs in Europe. Don't want to know about it. If the wheels have come off, they've come off, and they can't be reattached. And no amount of fucking super glue is going to keep them on.
Do you think the reason he sticks with the same players all the time, with what we've heard from Vlasic, with what we've heard from Krau in the interview, not Thomas Krau, like I called him in my video, Alex Krau.
Alex,
yeah.
I can't say shit. I kept calling you Chris for some bizarre reason.
But do you think the reason he does this is because Moyes is so disconnected with that group of players that he's only got relationships with a certain number of players, and that is why he puts them in the team? I think that could be it. I think he's just got this little close-knit group that he probably feels comfortable with, that he talks to, that he confides in, and they have to be in the team because they're the ones that he trusts. I think they could be. It's the only fucking.
You just said the word. You just said the word. Trust. Moyes is a trust manager.
Yeah.
If you gain Moyes' trust as a player, you're playing. Even if you play shit and your form dips, he'll still pick you. He'll still play you. Once you earn his trust, I think once you're in that Moyes inner circle, you're
it's the mafia structure. Once you're in, you're never out. Yeah.
Once you're in, you're never out. And we see that with Bowen and Souček.
Yeah.
You know, and I think Benny, unfortunately, from him, you see he's on the other side.
He don't give a shit though, by the looks of it. So credit to him because he doesn't seem to give a fuck. He doesn't seem to care.
He wasn't the Moyes signing. Moyes didn't particularly want him when he signed. And Benny has been trying and trying and trying to prove himself.
Listen to this. Listen, Tommy. Picture this. Picture how bad it would be if not only we kept Moyes and we had him against Arsenal, but just say he did what he does ultimately really want to do, and he sells Benny in this window as well in January. Could you imagine if he sold Benny in a January transfer window? Ooh, I think he'd love to.
I wouldn't allow him. I wouldn't allow it.
I think he'd love to, but no, I don't think they will. I don't think they'll allow him to do anything. I mean, they shouldn't.
No, because we're going to be getting. We're going to be getting bids in
or buy anyone. They shouldn't allow him to sell or buy anyone at the moment.
No, they should be completely out of Moyes' hands. Who leaves or goes or comes in?
Yeah.
Do you know, we can't trust him with those decisions. That's clear. You know, we brought in, and listen, I think Moyes is really old school. You know, Moyes is an old school manager, and that's how he sees himself and how he sees the game as it should be. Yeah. He thinks that he should be the one who says, go get me that player and that player and that player. He thinks he should be picking them off the shelf.
I know.
Those days are gone because managers come and go. And the problem you have in that system, the old school manager system, where the manager decided what players came in and dictated what players would or wouldn't be signed, is things don't go right. Manager's gone. All his players are left, who you've invested a lot of money into to build that team for him. And now he's gone. Now a new manager comes in and says, oh, don't fancy them. And now you're back to square one where the new manager saying, no, get rid of those like 8 players, and I'm going to need this guy and that guy and that guy and that. It's unsustainable because then that manager is going to be gone in a couple of years, and now you're back to square one.
It's got to be. You've got to look at the Brighton model, right? You've got to look at the fact that Brighton have got such a good structure in place, such good infrastructure, that losing a top class manager like Potter, that if that happened to us, we'd be fucked. Because all of his staff would go, all of the infrastructure would go, we'd have to rebuild everything from the ground up. All they've done is they've just gone out and found another manager in a similar mold to Potter. They've just carried on. They've carried on because nothing's really changed apart from the manager. No, nothing's changed.
Yes,
just the coach is gone
because
they're coaching.
It's easy. Yeah, it's easy to change a manager. It's one person, but you can't keep changing the squad every time you get a new manager. It's crazy. So I don't think managers should have a whole lot of say in the specific players that get signed. I think, you have a certain philosophy at the club. Let's say we stick to what we call the West Ham way. We all know what it is. I don't have to explain it.
Yeah.
So this is how we play football. And then you go out and you identify managers who fit that mold.
Yeah.
So that when you have someone like Rob Newman, he can go out and he can say, okay, we need a right back. What kind of right backs are out there that suit the way we play in this style of play that we have, this way we like to play football?
Yeah.
So that when a new manager comes in, the players are kind of in place to put into operation the kind of way that he wants to set them up. He's got the players there in place. And so if the manager feels like, okay, I need a centre back, he can go to Rob Newman and say, look, I really could use another centre back. This guy is getting a bit too old now, or is getting too injury prone. We need someone younger, talented in there. Then he can say they're on the same wavelength of the kind of player that they need.
Yeah.
And so Rob Newman can go away and say, okay, leave that with me. I'll go and find some players. We'll look at them. We'll see who you like, and we'll see if we can get the right player in. And then everything is kind of symbiotic. And even if it doesn't work out for that manager, he's gone. New manager comes in who suits the club and the way we play, and you don't have to get rid of an entire squad. He's got the players there that he can fit into the system.
Exactly. Well, the one thing that we do need to do is we need somebody to identify a manager that can fit the group of players that we've got. At the moment, the manager doesn't fit this group of players. It doesn't. So, which is a good thing. I'm fucking pleased about that. Yeah. I actually am, because we need a different type of manager that plays better, more expressive football. That was kind of identified. We've heard Moyes say that himself, and Rob Newman said that before the season started. They've identified that the way that we were playing weren't right, and we've got to change the way that we're playing to a more progressive passing game. And that's what they've done. They've recruited based on that. So, yes, so that's good. But what they need to do is, if, say, for instance, our next manager comes in, it might not be the case that this one gets sacked. Maybe this one gets poached because we're doing so well, Tommy. Imagine that. Imagine we're doing so well. Our manager comes in and gets poached. But all we've got to do is go out and find another manager that plays a similar way, a similar style. I mean, how good would that be? To actually get... it wouldn't be good, but to actually have a situation where you ain't got a sack a manager, you're trying to keep him, you know? That never happens.
Yeah.
Let's go out. Ben, you all right, mate?
Let's go out and find a manager who's going to suit these players, who's going to be able to get a tune out of Paqueta and Skamaka and Benny and Fornells and these players.
It's what they've got to do. It's what they've got to do.
Yeah.
And that's why I think, although I'll go back to it again, if Sean Dyche came in, look, it really wouldn't be my choice, but it would be better than David Moyes at the minute. But there is no proof to say that Sean Dyche can work with this type of. That's the thing. It would be a risk because there's no physical proof to say that Sean Dyche can do it. You know, because he's not done it before. So you've got to go out. Surely they've got to go out and recruit Yeah, but he's bang on there as well. Why play? It's true. You need pace on the wing. I mean, that's the other thing as well. Why on earth have we not seen when Benny's been playing? Sorry, not Benny. Bowen's been playing so poorly. You know, to have Antonio just playing on the right wing because he's so direct. Antonio, he's so direct. He's a good winger. You know, he's a good winger. He's a handful. I would love to see Antonio, Skamaka, and Benny.
Yeah.
That would be fine for me. You know, that there'd be nothing
Yeah,
wrong with that.
I had that in some of my teams that I put out on Twitter. We had obviously Cornet was injured and Bowen's form was awful.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was a 4-3-3 I wanted to see. Other times it was a 4-2-3-1. But
yeah,
I often had, I had that kind of front three that you just mentioned. I would have kind of Benny, Skamaka, and Antonio on the right, where he's really, really a handful for people, and there's not so much pressure on him to score goals. He's not the focal point of the attack. So
and he would probably score. He'd probably score more goals out wide because he hasn't got the pressure of being the main man. I know deep down he probably feels like he wants that, but I don't think he's coped with it very well, has he? He hasn't coped with that pressure very well. I don't think Antonio. He runs his arse off. He does. But he's just not. He hasn't got that clinical instincts that you need as a striker. Yeah. But look, going back, the 4-2-3-1. That's supposed to be an attacking formation. It's supposed to be on paper. That is an attacking formation. But the way that we use it, it isn't because we play with. I think Ben said it in the chat. We play with two central defensive midfielders. Why do you need two central defensive midfielders? In front of a back four, you don't. You need balance. You need balance in midfield. So you could play a 4-2-3-1. For me, forget the defense, but I would go probably at the moment. I'd love to see Downs in there, but I probably would go Rice and Paqueta in front of the not in front of the back two, but just as the deeper central midfielders. Fornell's in front, Benny on the left, Antonio right, Skamaka up front. Play attacking. Simple. That team there would cause the opposition serious fucking problems.
Yeah,
serious
absolutely.
Problems. It was.
There's a good balance to it, yeah. And Flynn would be happy to do the sitting. Declan could play his box-to-box role. Supplement the attack. He's brilliant driving forward with the ball, Rice. He's one of the best in the business.
He's brilliant.
Unbelievable. And you can easily as well. You could switch to a 4-3-3 where you could actually have Flynn Downs in the midfield three with Paqueta and Rice either side of him. And again, Flynn does the sitting. Paqueta and Rice can both get forward. And ahead of them, you've got, say, Skamaka, Antonio, and Benny. It's there's a lot of ability in that attacking line. I mean, it's frustrating that we're not seeing any of that. And I'm just praying that, we'll see that in our next game with a new manager. But we have to wait and see.
I think we will. I mean, we've got such talent. I've got no doubt. Don't get me wrong. That new manager bounce will wear off. But I think there is such a cloud over that squad at the moment. I do. You can see it. I think there's such a cloud over that squad at the moment that all the manager has got to do when he comes in is just basically just take the shackles off. Get them. Basically, there will be a good feel factor about West Ham when Moyes goes. And I think that by default, irrespective of the manager that comes in, we're going to have a good little run of games. I think we will. I think we'll see some good football, because no manager that comes in is going to look at that group of players and goes, oh, fuck, we've got to batten down the hatches and grind out a result. You don't need to. You've got such talent there. It's why it makes no sense what Moyes has done. It makes no sense what he's done. Yeah. The way that we approach games is sickening. It is.
Yeah, it just kind of puts into my mind that this would be just such a terrible waste of the talent that we have at our disposal at the club. If we don't get a manager in that can get a tune out of these players and really get them playing.
I've got to keep the faith. Well, look, first of all, I'm keeping the faith that I'm telling you now, I can't let myself believe that that David Moyes is going to be here when we face Arsenal. I really, really don't think he's going to be. But the next worry is the recruitment side of things. But we have got more than GSB now. We have got Rob Newman as well, because if Rob Newman is going out identifying players to fit a certain style, you would like to imagine that they would consult with Rob Newman on the style of manager that we would need to fit this
Yeah.
group of players. So I think that we have got more expertise than what we had before. It was just David Sullivan playing FIFA effectively, wasn't it? And his son, and his son's dicking around with it. So I've got more faith now that I think we'll be okay. But at the end of the day, how much worse can we get? This is the thing. We need to make a change. The most important thing at the moment is getting Moyes out the door, because if that doesn't happen, it's going to be unforgivable for the board, because it's not going to happen. I'm telling you, it is not going to happen. We're not going to go and face Arsenal. We're not going to beat them. Even if we manage to get something out of Brentford and Leeds, it's going to be nothing more than a smash and grab. One of those games where we just fucking, we grind out a win, or we get a VAR decision after 5 handballs, which is what we've had against Fulham and bloody Bournemouth. It's not going to be anything more like that. You'll come out of it feeling relieved than anything, because that's what happens with the way that David Moyes plays. I just don't want to see him here. I'm done with him. I'm fucking sick of watching it.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, Nick, I don't want to be somewhere down the line looking back at this group of players that we had, just disgusted at how we wasted them.
Yes, well, they can't do that because, like I say, the players that we've bought in the summer, they can't keep on losing money on players. They can't have a repeat of Anderson and Haller. They can't have a repeat of that. So they've got to look at that. And although, they might have to pay Moyes off, but that's small fry. He's on $5 million a year. His contract is up, not this year, next year. So what they've got to give him, $7.5 million. Fucking pay him off. Get rid of him. Get another manager in. A manager that might actually increase the value of our squad as opposed to devalue it. How about that? And then that offsets the money that you're paying the manager anyway. Yeah, and it would be the best. Yeah, it'd be the best $7.5 million we spent, really, wouldn't it? Oh, 100%. Yeah, it would be. It would be. Anyway, Tommy, I'm going to have to shoot shortly, mate. I'm
going to end it here anyway. Listen,
Lovely
really
stuff.
Appreciate you coming on, Nick. I
really
wanted to get you on because I think we're very like-minded, and I wanted to get your views on everything, and I felt it would be a really good discussion. Okay, it was very one-sided. I don't care, and I make no apologies for it.
I don't care either.
I feel how I feel, and that's it. If a manager's doing a good job, and I think there are a lot of positives, I'll be very positive.
I'm pretty sure, Tommy, that people that wanted to hear the other side of the argument would have tuned in, seen our faces, and tuned out again, to be quite honest.
Yeah, pretty sure. Yeah. Listen, thanks very much again, Nick. Really appreciate it. And also, of course, thanks to everybody in the live chat. Really appreciated you joining us.
Some good comments in there.
Really great comments in there. And hopefully you'll all join me again next weekend. But until then, come on, you Irons, and get Moyes the